Hello all, I welcome you all to the 15th lecture in this course E614. The last time we started our treatment on bipolar junction transistors, we saw the need for having the third junction. Basically it has to do with injection of carriers from the emitter to the base to the collector, where the base collector junction is reverse biased. You can inject, let us take an example of NPN. You can inject electrons into the base region, which can be swept to the collector, forming the collector current, right? Emitter, and this becomes the base. So for most effective functioning of this device, you need to have efficient emitter current injection, right, and very low recombination in the base region for most of the electrons to be transported across the base. And this makes sense for you to reduce the width of the base, because the wider the base region is, more recombination you can expect to happen in the base region, right? So that's one reason why the width of the base is typically much smaller than the collector region, right? Now let us try to understand the various currents which are there in this particular junction, and we will start with the standard equilibrium band structure. So we are once again considering the NPN type, right? So basically we have an N-type semiconductor. We want the emitter to be heavily doped, right? So we have the Fermi level close to the conduction band. You have an N-type semiconductor here. At equilibrium, of course, the Fermi level should be equal everywhere. We will talk about the need for, or the doping criteria for the base. So we are going to draw something. It has to be a P-type junction, right? So somewhere it is closer to the valence band than to the conduction band, but where it should be placed we will discuss, right? Should it be heavily doped, should it be mildly doped? All these things we will discuss. And the collector, once again we will see how it should be doped, but then it is again an N-type semiconductor, so we are going to draw like this. So the eventual structure is going to look like this in the situation where it is under equilibrium, right? Now under any applied bias this is going to change, and we saw that under normal operating conditions the base collector junction is going to be reverse biased, and for you to efficiently inject electrons from the emitter to the base it has to be forward biased, right? So under normal operating conditions we will see other conditions as well, but for now we are going to consider mostly just the normal operating conditions, right? Under these conditions I have once again the Fermi level of N-type like this, right? Now the P-type is going to be changed, so we are going to, let us say, draw this here and this a bit lowered and maybe in a different color. So I have EFP here. Remember the standard notations in which we draw the quasi-Fermi levels or IMREF levels in the normal junction, right? So this is EFN, which remains flat till the depletion width. Let us take, I have depletion width till, and then starts changing from there on, right? And I have the collector base junction to be reverse biased, so it is going to be, let's see, like this. Okay. And this is much farther down. So this level will be the base emitter potential, and this level will be the base collector potential. So now I have made the reverse bias, right? This is under normal operating conditions. So I have a lot of electrons in the conduction band here, right? Now under these forward bias potentials, these electrons will have enough energy to surmount this barrier and be injected into the conduction band of the p-type base, right? Now similarly, I have holes here which can also race through this barrier and come here, right? Now these holes can recombine, right? So this, and these electrons which are injected into the base region can once again recombine, right? But then whatever which escapes from this recombination, once it crosses this particular region, it gets accelerated by the depletion width of this base collector junction, which is reverse biased, right? And you get your collector current IC naught. I hope you guys remember that under reverse bias, the collector current or the reverse saturation current is basically because of recombination of electron hole pairs, right? So you can call it IC naught, or it is basically electron, right? So basically you can also write as INC, electron in the conduction in the collector, and this is called as INE, electrons coming from the emitter, right? So you have electrons which are emitted from the emitter. It is because electrons are moving this side, INE is going to be along this side. Because the electrons are moving here, once again the direction is actually a bit wrong. I have IC naught here, INC, once again opposite the direction of electrons. Similarly, I have holes which move like this. Once again you will have IPE, hole current, right? And you have recombination at the base, which is called as IRB, recombination current. You have recombination in the electron in the emitter, you call it IRE, right? And you also have recombination in the base collector region, which should be IRC, but then it is same as IC naught. So we are just now going to distinguish between IC naught and IRC. Both of them are the same, right? So now once we see this particular thing, right? So in order to enhance the electron injection from the emission to the base, right? Let's say to maximize electron injection into the base, it's easy to see that you should reduce the hole injection from the base to the emitter, right? Because the more holes you inject into the emitter, the more recombination it can happen, right? As long as you reduce the hole injection into the emitter, you can actually have higher electron injection into the base, right? So how do you reduce the hole injection? So it depends. So let us say if I have a depletion width here, right, and the hole concentration in this region, so basically the hole current depends upon Pn of, let us take this region as WE. At WE is basically Pn naught e power QBBE by KT, right? It is proportional to the density of holes in the emitter region. So if we can reduce this number, right, we will have reduced recombination in the emitter. How do we reduce this number? So Pn naught is basically Ni square by Nd E, right? So if I increase the doping density in the emitter, I reduce the hole injection into this into the emitter, right? So basically, to reduce recombination, emitter recombination, you just increase the emitter doping density. Thus, this is reason why we need high doping density in the emitter. right? Now second, how do you increase the electron injection once again into this into the base? It once again, the electron concentration here depends upon, so let's say we call this particular, the end of this depletion width to be 0, okay, according to our x somewhere. So NP, this is the base, right? NP of x is equal to 0, being the edge of the depletion width in the base, depends upon NP naught, intrinsic carrier electron concentration in base, e power QVBE by KT. This is what we saw last time as well, right? So in order to increase your electron injection into the base, you have to increase the intrinsic carrier concentration in the base. And how do you increase this? Once again, this you can write as Ni square by Na, where Na is the doping density in the base, right? E power QVBE by KT. Thus, to have higher electron injection into the base, you need to have low doping in the base, okay, to increase electron injection, right? So now we have seen the criteria for what should be the doping density in the base, and it should be smaller, right? So the base should be lightly doped so that you increase the intrinsic carrier concentration of electrons in the base, and the base should, emitter should be heavily doped so that you reduce the emitter recombination in the you reduce recombination in the emitter, right? Now about the width of the base, we should reduce electron recombination at base. We put W being the base width to be much smaller than the depletion or the diffusion length of an electron. So this comes from, let us take a PN junction like this here, and this being the emitter and this being the base. You have an NP junction, as we are currently seeing an NPN transistor, right? And we saw our depletion width to be like this. This we are taking it at x is equal to 0, and this we consider at x is equal to WE, right? And we saw that this base width, the region away from this W, should be smaller than the diffusion length of electron, because you want the electrons will basically recombine, and its carrier concentration will drop down exponentially like this, right? And it should drop down, it should not drop down so significantly that very less number of electrons is injected into the collector side, right? So for that particular reason, we want the base width to be much smaller than the electron diffusion length to have significant number of electrons to be injected into the collector. So these are the general doping considerations and physical considerations for the base, as well as the doping in the emitter, right? So now let us calculate the currents in this BJT, right? So let us just list all the currents. First current that we have is INE. This is the electron injection from emitter. Basically, it is at x is equal to 0. What is the current injected into the electron? So this is INE, okay, to IRE. This is recombination in the emitter, right? So from this base emitter junction, we also have holes which are being injected into the emitter, and there are some recombination here, right, between the electron and hole. So some portion of the holes is lost during this recombination as well. This is IRE. Third component is IP. So this is the normal hole current into the PN junction. So basically you have the whole current from base. This is a normal PN junction, right? So here you have electron injection, you have hole injection, and you have some recombination. These are the three parts from this emitter base junction. Right. Now we have the fourth, just simple recombination at the base. Right. So any place here you have the electrons which are moving, and there can be some recombination at the base, as we currently discussed. The fifth is electrons at, so basically you have the electron current INC, that is the collector current, right? You can also call it IC naught, it's the INC. This is the electron collector current. This is the current which was injected from the emitter side. In addition, you have IC naught, which is the reverse saturation current. This is the current which is due to the recombination in the depletion width, right? So you have a depletion width here as well, which gets recombined. The electron which is injected gets recombined here, but then there is something which leaves this place as well. So that is recombination. So this is the recombination current at the collector base junction, right? So with all these current, it is our goal to actually calculate these things. Slowly we will do one by one. So the first, let us take some assumptions like we did for ideal Schottky diode. Our first assumption would be that all potentials applied falls on the depletion widths. Right? So basically we think that there are no ohmic losses in the neutral region. This is the consideration that we used even in the ideal Schottky diode derivation. So we will continue with the same assumption here. Right? The second assumption is we are going to assume here N plus P junction in the emitter base region. Right? So we are going to assume emitter to be super heavily doped, and the most of the depletion width falls in the base, right? That's our assumption. So let us draw the doping density and the depletion width more clearly, so that next time when we are actually deriving it, it makes it much easier for us. I have a heavily doped emitter region. So this is Nd minus Na, okay? A moderately doped base and a very small doped collector and a wide collector, right? So we have a very small depletion width here and some reasonable depletion width here, right? We call this at x is equal to 0, and this distance is W, right? And you have a very large depletion width in the collector region. This width is WDC, depletion width in the collector, and we will call this as WC, total width of the collector, right? We will call this as width of the base, and we will call this as width of the emitter, right? So now let us calculate everything. Let us do in this emitter base junction. We want to calculate what is the current here, right? And we can use the standard equations that we have used for ideal Schottky diode. So in this case, we have an N region in the emitter. What is the minority carrier concentration here at the edge of this depletion width, right? So we know this to be NP of 0 is basically NP naught e power QVBE by KT, right? And we also know NP of W, edge of this width, right? This is the depletion width on this side, is similarly NP naught e power QVBC by KT. Remember, under normal operating conditions, VBC is negative, right? And under normal operating conditions, you have much less injection here. So because VBC is negative and large, this is approximately equal to 0. So now let us write the continuity equation in the base at steady state, of course. So dNP by dt is going to be 0. You have the diffusion component, and the standard, sorry, you have this is the recombination component and the diffusion component, right? So the solution for this second order differential equation is something that we have seen previously. Plus you have two constants, e power x by ln plus c2 e power minus x by ln, and ln being the diffusion length, and we know this ln to be equal to root dn tau. So this is something that we have previously seen, right? And we can solve this equation with these two boundary conditions that we just now defined, and we can find the actual values of constants c1 and c2. So c1 will turn out to be np of w minus np naught minus np naught minus np0 e power minus w by ln divided by 2 sine hyperbolic with il. So these are just very simple substitutions from these two equations. So you will get c1 and c2 minus np naught e power ln minus np of w minus np naught to. So this, if we substitute this entire two things, if we substitute into this this equation, and you will get the overall minority carrier distribution in the base, right? And we can actually calculate the current. I understand these equations are big. We will get more intuitive feeling into what these things tell us when we see the current, right? So in, we will not be using J because we will anyway multiply it by the area to give the total current. In E, that is coming from the emitter, right, will be A being the area of the emitter, Q dN dNP by dx, and this is the total diffusion current as we saw before, right? And we assume that you do not have such heavy injection such that the drift component becomes important. We are going to talk about only diffusion currents everywhere. This is one of the assumptions from the ideal Schottky diode as well. And the current, you see, this is the total current, right? So it does not have to be E. This is the total electron current everywhere. Now, to find the actual component which is injected from the emitter is basically AQ dN dNP by dx at x is equal to 0, right? And you can find the collector current AQ dN dNP by dx at x is equal to W. So what we mean is, if we take this, right, you have electrons which are injected from the emitter side, right, and you have a portion of the current which is INE here, right, it is actually the opposite. I'm just looking at the number of electrons, right? And a fraction of them cross this, and then it gets injected into the collector junction, right? This is ICE. A portion of them is absorbed in the base for base recombination. So this is the two difference that we are talking right now. At x is equal to 0, you get INE. At x is equal to W, you get ICE. Right? These are the two components that we spoke about, right? So now let us substitute this NP into this DNX, and then we find INE. This is going to be C, right? Not C. INE will turn out to be AQ DN NP naught by ln. Ln once again being the diffusion length, cot H W by ln multiplied by e power QBBE by KT minus 1. Maybe I can write this here itself. Minus secant H W by ln e power Q B BC by KT minus 1. Similarly, I get INC to be AQ DN NP naught by ln cosecant H W by ln multiplied by e power Q BB by KT minus 1 minus cot H W by ln e power QB BC by KT minus 1. Remember, VBC is negative, right? Because collected bias base junction is reverse biased, right? And you have cot and secant, and just to have a feel for what these things mean, let's just plot this as a function of width by length. Okay. So if I plot, let us say cot H diverges at x is equal to 0, right, at very small width by length, and then has a saturation value at very high values. So this is cot H. And what happens to secant? Secant is like this. Right? So this is secant. Maybe I'll draw the cosecant in the other color. Right? Cosecant is similar to cot, but then it goes like this. This is cosecant H. Right? These are the three things that we talk about here. So we have cosecant, we have cot, and we have secant, right? So what it means is, if we have width by length to be really large, right? If that is, we have a really large junction, we have a really large base, then the collector current basically becomes 0, right? So what happens is that you have no relationship between the so let's go here, right? So what happens if we have this width by length to be really large, then the secant tends to be 0. So this term will go to 0 if width is very large, and hence nothing related to the collector base junction will affect the emitter current, right? Similarly, if width by length is very large, cosecant goes to 0 as we saw here. So the collector current basically becomes 0, because you see it is reverse bias. There is no injection from the emitter side which actually contributes to the collector current, right? And hence for large width you already have the emitter base and the collector base junction to be delineated without having any relationship, right? And if we have something which is very small, if the width is very small in comparison to the length, then that is, in the limit, width is much smaller than the diffusion length and VBC is negative, we have a strong reverse bias, we can actually write the collector or the emitter current to be AQDN NP naught cot H W by Ln into e power QVBE by KT, right? So because this is negative, the collector base current does not really contribute anything to the emitter current, but the collector current is AQ DN NP naught cosecant W by Ln e power QVBE by KT. So you can see that in the limit of width much smaller than the diffusion length, both your collector and emitter current seems very similar. You can compare the red line and the black line here. So these two lines in the limit width by length being very small, particularly in this region, you can see both of them being particularly very close. So you have INE almost equal to INC, right? And you have the ratio which is called as the base transport factor alpha T, called as base transport factor, which is equal to INC by INE, right, is almost equal to 1. This is the ideal situation, right? And under these conditions, you can actually write cot H W by Ln almost equal to cosecant H W by Ln is written almost equal to Ln by W, right? Because width is much smaller, so you have almost a really large number here. This gives you INE equal to INC is AQ DN NP naught by W e power QVBE by KT, right? I think I missed an Ln here, right? So now that we have this condition, the best way to make INC the collector current equal to the emitter current is to reduce width, right? Now how do we increase alpha T further, right? You cannot keep on decreasing the base width, right? So there is a technical difficulty in reducing the width beyond a certain limitation, which we will deal later on, but there are other ways to actually increase the base transport factor, which is done by using what is called as a graded profile in the base region. This is called as a drift transistor. To increase alpha T, that is to increase the collector current, so what they do is, let us take the doping density, right? Let's take the emitter is almost constant and high as we saw before. The base doping, which was constant before, is given by this gradual doping profile, right? And your N region is like this. So this is base, you have the collector, and you have the emitter. Because you have a gradient in the doping profile, we know this will cause an electric field, right? And how? In the base, you know the P of x, the hole density, is basically equal to the acceptor density, right? And which can be written as Ni e power Ei minus Ef by Kt. It can be Ei, Ec, Ev, all of them having the same relationship, right? Let's calculate dP by dx, which is d by dx of Na, which will turn out to be 1 by Kt Na of x dEi by dx, right? And the electric field in the base Ei will turn out to be is typically 1 by Q dEi by dx, right? This we saw in the previous discussion, that the electric field is basically equal to the gradient in the band, right? This is what we saw. Gradient in the band. The band is typically the potential profile. The gradient in the band will give you the electric field, and this will turn out to be Kt by Q Na of x dNa of x by dx, right? So now we know what is the electric field. The total current in the base, right, Ix, In of x, is an addition of the drift component that we previously considered, and the diffusion component that we previously considered. In addition, you have to add the drift component. Right? So this is the drift. So we can substitute this Ei, right? We can substitute this electric field. You will get a Q dN dNp by dx plus, you know, mu n to be dq by kt, right, from the Einstein equation. This will turn out to be np by Na of x dNa of x by dx. So, and you can rearrange this this equation to give you dNp of x by dx plus 1 by Na of x dNa is equal to In of x by aq dn. Now this is a diffusion, this is a first order differential equation we know how to solve, right? The solution for this is plus C, right? So this is the typical solution for this differential equation, and you have the boundary condition, because we know this, that NP of W is going to be 0, because at the edge of this depletion width here, the base collector junction is actually reverse bias, so you do not have any electrons at the end of this at the edge of this depletion width, right? So basically, if you put this to be 0, then you get C to be equal to 0, right? And at x is equal to 0, you can calculate NP of 0 to be IN of 0 by AQ dn NA of 0 integral 0 to W NA of x dx. Actually, this should be x2. This is the actual solution, right? And we know this IN of 0 is basically the INE, right? So this is INE, and this is what we calculated before. And whatever, you know, we know that whatever that we do in the base doping density do not really change the emitter injection. So INE is going to be the same. So basically, if I substitute INE to be AQ dn NP naught e power QVBE by KT by W, you have another AQ dn NA naught here, integral 0 to W NA of x. Now this will reduce to NP naught e power QVBE by KT. So this is the density of electrons at 0. Now you can rearrange this expression once again to get at NEX is basically AQ dn NP of x into NA divided by integral 0 to W NA of x dx. Now let's substitute this NA of x integral to be something like NA plus, right? And NP, so we know at IN of 0, which is INE, which will turn out to be AQ dn by NA plus, and you know we just calculated NP of 0, which was NP0 e power QVBE by KT, right? And into Na, right? And you know this NP naught into Na is basically Ni square, so you get AQ dn Ni square e power QVBE by KT by Na plus. This is the expression for the emitter injection if you have a base which had this gradient in the doping density, right? And you can compare this with our previous expression for the emitter current in the case where you have a flat doping density in the base, which is AQ dn Ni square by Na. It's not Na, basically NP naught by W e power q VBE by KT, and NP naught is Ni square by Na, right? So if I replace this by Ni square by Na, and Na into W is basically this Na plus, right? And Na plus is just this integral. So Na plus is this integral 0 to W Na of x dx, and this is what is called as a Gummell's number. And you can see that only this integral actually determines the emitter current and does not change the form of this distribution. Whether you have a gradient or will you have a flat doping density really does not change the emitter injection, but then it changes the total current by adding a drift component, right? So basically it can enhance the collector current but does not change the emitter current. The emitter current depends only on the net density of hole doping in the base region, right? So now let us calculate the other currents. The third current being the hole current into the emitter. So let's take the same emitter base junction, N and P. Hole is being injected because the emitter base junction is forward biased, right? So you have an IPE, and it depends upon this width of this emitter. If the width of the emitter is smaller than the diffusion length of these holes, it is this width that will determine the current. So we will have the IPE, which is once again the normal PN junction forward current, which is J naught e power q VBE minus 1. It is AQ dP PN naught by LP, but then if the width is smaller than the diffusion length, it is basically this width which will contribute, right, into e power q VBE by KT minus 1. So this will be the whole current into this emitter base junction. Now let us talk about recombination currents. What's the recombination at the emitter? So the recombination typically has several pathways. The total lifetime of a carrier, right, electron or hole, is basically this Matheson's addition of Shockley-Reed Hall, which we saw previously. Because this region is heavily doped, you tend to have a lot of traps, so you have trap assisted recombination. In addition to this, you also have what is called as Auger. So we saw this Auger recombination, which depends upon the actual carrier density, right? So basically 1 by tau A is proportional to 1 by Nd square. Nd is the doping density, so higher the doping density, smaller is the lifetime. Right? So basically you have much stronger Auger recombination. So most dominant recombination time in this particular heavily doped NP junction is the Auger recombination. So that is what will determine the actual recombination lifetime or the typical lifetime. And we know what is the recombination current from the previous discussion on recombination and generation. I emitter recombination will turn out to be proportional to 1 by tau e power q VBE by MKT. And in this equation you have M equal to 2 if recombination dominates. We have seen this previously in our recombination generation, effect of recombination generation in PN junction diodes, non-ideal contributions, right? And the last component is the reverse saturation current, IC naught, collector current. Okay. So IC naught is once again a simple base collector, right? And we have collector very mildly doped, and the depletion width, we call this as WDC and this as WC, right? And this as W, right? The width in the base is very small in consideration to the width in the collector region, right? So the reverse saturation current can be written as AC, width of the collector, Q dP Pn naught by WC minus WDC. So basically it is the diffusion of the holes in the n-type region, right, plus dNp naught by W being diffusion of electrons in the p-type region, right? So this will be the total IC naught. So beginning with the initial discussion on the depletion width, we started, and then we managed to find the current component, the total emitter current and the collector current under certain conditions. Remember, this is true for all bias conditions independent of whether it is forward bias or reverse bias, right? The only, I mean, these two equations are true almost always, right? There are very few assumptions in these two equations. You start assuming reverse bias and width being, the base width to be much smaller than the diffusion length, and then you start getting these simpler equations, right? And to increase the base transport factor, we saw that you can have some kind of a drift in the base by what is called as a drift transistor, and then you can have an increase in the collector current without any change in the emitter injection by just changing the doping profile in the base. And we saw the Gummel effect of the Gummel number. So the Gummel number only determines the total. The Gummel number determines the emitter injection efficiency, right? And we saw the hole current in the emitter to be the standard PN junction forward bias hole component. We saw the recombination effect of recombination in the emitter. The same thing can be written for the recombination current in the base as well, right? The equations are just the same. And we saw the expression for the reverse saturation current in the base collector reverse bias. So with this statement, we will stop on all the current components in the BJT. The next time we meet, let us talk about current gain and such. Thank you.